Here's how to stop choosing the wrong deck for an event and start choosing the right one. Now, usually choosing the deck with the best matchups into an event isn't always the right play. If it matches your playstyle, then completely fine. But usually playing one of the top decks that matches your playstyle is better than playing the best deck that matches your playstyle. Any of the top 5 decks in the format can usually do well, and the deciding factor isn't normally a 40-60 to a popular deck. It's usually playing the deck better than your opponents. You want to choose your deck early, play a couple games with the top 5 decks, like 4 weeks out from an event, maybe even longer, and see which one you like best. And you want to play that deck as much as possible in the time you have. And even if a matchup feels bad, you're unlikely to play against it, so stop worrying so much about playing loads of one matchup. And you also build your deck to beat it, usually, or have a better matchup into it, but try not to take away consistency. And even if a week before you start doubting your choice, you will always do worse with another deck, so lock in your deck and stick to it. If everybody starts playing a counter to your deck, then maybe it's okay to switch to a linear deck, but normally just stick with your deck. Now, skill level, how good you are at the game should really affect what deck you choose, as playing a high agency deck, a deck with lots of choices and that's quite complicated, is a lot harder than playing a linear deck, and a less skillful player should probably play a linear deck over a more complicated deck. So for example, a less skillful player playing a linear deck with a kind of mid matchup spread will do better than the same player playing a high agency deck with a better matchup spread. Now, high agency decks take a lot more thinking and have a lot more complicated situations, which new players can struggle and make mistakes with, and that can end up losing games compared to playing a linear deck. Now, if you have less time to prep for an event, you won't be able to work out lines for a more complicated deck, then it's probably correct to play an easier deck. Time should be a factor in deciding whether you play a deck or not. For example, if you only have 2 weeks or you're really busy over the time you have to test, then usually playing something simpler will give you a better result. And also, don't switch from an extremely easy deck to a complicated deck 2 weeks from before an event. This should be kind of common sense. Now, I hear a lot of the 2-week rule, which is basically you only need 2 weeks to learn a deck. And after quite a lot of trial and error, I've noticed that this isn't really correct. Now, if you want to do well for an event, you usually need a lot more than 2 weeks of playing a deck to do well, for the average person. Locking in a slightly bad pick for an event 4 weeks before beats 2 weeks of prep with the best deck. And linear decks can be learned in 2 weeks sometimes, and it is possible to learn a more complicated deck with the correct support. For example, a Metafy guide or people who have played the deck to a high level before that you know. So overall, you want to play more focused games, and the more you play, the better you do with a deck. Choose a deck based on your current skill level and try to improve in between events, not on the run up to an event. And most players aren't perfect with this, and in the past, specifically for Worlds, I jumped between decks for ages, and I ended up not doing too well just because of that. If I chose a deck and didn't really think too hard about it, then I probably would have done a lot better. I hope this helps you, and hopefully you'll do better in future events.